All right. Great to be with you. Great to be in a place that has Starbucks Wi-Fi, which extends probably a mile in every direction of the of the store. So today's topic is the Spirit and the Bride say come. And the focus of today's meditation is being prepared for the awakening to happen. So in our journey in self-realization, I'm sure each one of us can attest to the fact that we have certain desires that arise within ourselves. So, a desire to uh, have contentment, a desire to live from a place of wisdom, a desire to be illumined at all times. We have all of these desires that find their origin in the soul. For the soul is meant and intended for this quality of life and living. And we find simultaneously with these desires that not always, but probably frequently enough to mention, there is a gap between the fullness of that desire taking place within us and where we are at in the present moment. And so, awakening anew is the process of the part that is longing unfulfilled realizes or becomes fulfilled in that very desire. And I love for the languaging around this to be like bride and bridegroom. Not that one's the bride and one's the bridegroom, but rather that it points to the dance that's taking place within ourselves and the ultimate union with the beloved, the lover and the beloved, the bride and the bridegroom, the ultimate union that happens as we awaken fully anew. And when I was looking at, I wanted the topic Spirit and the Bride say come, and I was looking at two different passages. The passage I chose not to use was the passage where the all of the virgins, well, in the story there are 10, but there are 10 virgins who have lamps who are waiting for the bridegroom. And in the story, 5 of them made sure they had enough oil, and the other 5 did not. And the bridegroom was delayed in coming. They fell asleep. They had their lamps lit. And then, with their lamps burning at a certain point, the bridegroom shows up. And what happens? The 5 that made sure they had enough oil, their lamps are lit. And the 5 that did not have enough oil, their lamps went out and they couldn't greet the bridegroom. So I was torn between that passage and the passage that I chose for similar, they both pull upon similar angles to the theme of being prepared for this awakening anew. And let me refer first to that story, and then I'll jump into what was in our newsletter. So you could read that story in a very superficial level and say, wow, right? It's like almost a punitive measure. Well, you didn't have enough oil, so what? You lose. And then it could seem almost mysteriously selfish that the ones with enough oil would not share with the ones that did not have enough oil. But it points to the fact that they needed their oil for themselves. But when we look a little more deeply to that, the oil represents what? The preparation. And every person is responsible for their own preparation in relationship to God. Every single one of us. And therefore, how much oil we have of reserve is completely up to us alone with the beloved to be prepared in order to be prepared. But look at what the passage is also pointing to is the fact that the preparation wasn't that these virgins went out looking for the bridegroom, didn't try to fulfill the desire, but just that they had enough oil that the light would be strong enough that they would be able to meet the bridegroom when the bridegroom showed up. So that shows that preparation is really an inner work, if you will. Now, in the passage that's in the newsletter, it's got a lovely couple references here. So Jesus is being asked by some various spiritual leaders, church leaders, why his disciples don't fast and why John the Baptist's disciples fast. And Jesus points out that those that are with him are fulfilled. You fast in order to be prepared for something, but what they were preparing for is in their presence, and that's being with him. So there's no preparation needed. And the fact that they're with him shows that they did whatever preparation was needed for that illumination to take place. But then he goes further to talk about what is involved in this. And I'm going to use their closeness to Jesus as just the general state of awakening into union with the beloved. So they're not fasting because they're in union, and that in union is showing forth because they're with Jesus. So let's just look at that as the general process of awakening, whether it's Christocentric for you or not, whether you use the word Jesus in that process or not. Well, Jesus gives a little bit more insight into this. He says, "No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear worse. And neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. If they did, the skins would burst. The wine will run out and the wineskins will be ruined. You pour new wine into new wineskins." So, what I believe the lesson is here for us today is the question of, in our inner preparation for awakening, in our inner preparation, what within us is a condition that no longer serves? What is an old wineskin? What is a lamp without oil? But we're holding on to it. And what conditions are being called forth so that the new wine can show up and be poured into us, so that the awakening can happen anew, so that when the bridegroom comes, we are lit up enough that we are ready. We are ready, ready, ready. So we're talking about the conditions. What conditions within us no longer serve us? What conditions are being called forth? Now, I have referred to these conditions, this idea, numerous times in other things that we've done. And I first went deep in this inquiry through a book written by Janet O'Connor called The Lotus and the Lily. And in that book, she quotes the Buddha as saying, "When the conditions are right, manifestation happens." So you see, when the conditions are right, we can't not manifest. We can't not awaken. So what we want to look at is not so much focusing only on the desires of our soul that we're not in yet and the gap, but we want to focus on what conditions are being called forth uniquely right here and right now so that awakening can happen. Conditions can vary. For instance, they can be the choice, the knowing that you're meant to meditate daily. They could be the knowing that you're meant to let a relationship go in your life, or the knowing that you're meant to say yes to a certain relationship or friendship. They could be on that level. They could be around time management. They could be around other forms of self-care like that. But most often, they do involve that, but most often they also involve other ways of becoming a new wineskin. And what would that be? A new form of trust, a new commitment to audacity in your spiritual life, a new form of inquiry that doesn't circle around the same patterns, but asks new questions, yielding new answers. So, those are samples of conditions. And what I would love to invite you to do right after this meditation or at some other point for yourself is take a look at what you need to do and be and choose in order to be lamp full with plenty of oil, new wineskin, so the awakening can happen. And when you take a look at this, even when you're looking at like a union with the beloved or a fulfillment of a certain desire, if that desire is somehow representative of a bridegroom, what image is conjured up for you? Are some of your implicit and explicit beliefs around this? That is a very, very juicy inquiry. All right. So our condition preparation today, our choosing to have a big stock of oil for our lamp and our choosing to become a new wineskin is going to be a chakra meditation. And we're not going to use sound. Oftentimes I use sound with chakra meditations. Today we are going to use color. All right. Why color? Or what does color have to do with it? All vibrations and frequencies have a certain tone to them that is a color. So when you look at colors in a rainbow or colors on a spectrum, if you were to break it down into frequency and waves, you would see that there is a different frequency that's happening. And that frequency correlates with the color that you see. So the color red has a different frequency in energy in this world than the color blue has. And the color green has a different frequency than the color purple has. So when we do a chakra meditation with color, what we're doing is we're allowing the frequency of the color itself to wash our field so that we can be the new wineskin, so that the conditions are ripe for manifestation and awakening. And if you have studied the chakra system, you will know that for the major chakras, the root chakra is red, the sacral or second chakra is orange, the solar plexus or third chakra is yellow, the heart chakra is green, the throat chakra is a crystal blue, the third eye or sixth chakra is indigo blue, and the crown is purple or white. And this, while it is generally true that the way our chakras operate, that's the color frequency that's happening, these are not hard, fast rules. I have found when I have been an agent of color healing that oftentimes colors will come to me that don't correlate with the area of the body that may be the point of focus. For instance, I was doing some training and some healing work, and I was working with a partner, and we were called to do psychic healing on each other. And what that was we sat in silence, and one was the receiver and one was the giver. And you just simply had to follow your intuition and do a healing for that person, but notice the images or anything that comes up. And what happened with this man was I was sitting there and this part of his neck kept coming up really strong. But what also came up strong with it was like a thick red, orange with just a little yellow, like an oil-based paint was coming up to smear on that area. And so I followed my sensing on this and I smeared it in my mind's eye. I kept smearing this red, orange, oil-based paint-like energy with a little bit of yellow on this part that if you went literal would be crystal blue, indigo blue area. And as I finished that healing, afterwards, we both opened our eyes and he was freed of a pinched nerve that was in his neck. So he had walked into that session and that time of learning with that going on that was causing him great pain. So we don't want to be rigid with the color and make it like rules that we have to follow, but we want the color itself to be fluid and to follow. So I'm going to prompt you with color. And as you allow the color and the chakra to become larger and amplify, if other colors are coming in or other things are happening, follow that guidance. Okay, this is fun, right? So we are preparing the conditions by washing all parts of the energy bodies and by igniting new ways of being. So I invite you to close your eyes and bring your attention to the root chakra at the base of the spine, a whirling vortex that extends downward to the center of creation and that vibrates with the color red, deep blood red. Bring your focus here and become aware of that frequency color of blood red. And now let your entire physical body, all the cells, be washed in this blood red. And let the extended energy bodies of you be washed in that blood red as well, so that you are vibrating in and swimming in this red. The gaze upward to the second chakra, the sacral chakra, about 3 or 4 inches below the belly button. 2 main vortices, one extending forward, outward, and one extending backward, outward, and vibrating to the color of brilliant gold, orange, a warm orange. This region of your body, vibrating to this orange. And extending through all the body, physical and energy bodies. You are swimming in a brilliant orange. Notice feelings and sensations. Gaze upward to the solar plexus or third chakra, a few inches above the belly button. with its two vortices, one moving out the front, one in the back, and vibrating to a piercing golden yellow. Let every cell of the body be washed in this yellow. And let all the energy bodies that are you be refreshed and washed in this yellow as well. You are immersed entirely in the frequency of the solar plexus yellow. Move the focus upward to the heart and the heart chakra, vibrating the frequency of emerald green. Let every cell be filled with emerald green, be washed. Let all the extended energy bodies be washed in emerald green. Up to the throat chakra, crystal blue. And sense the two vortices of this crystal blue extending outward, the front and the back. And let the chakras open wide. And this crystal blue move effortlessly like a waterfall through the physical body, through the emotional and mental bodies, through the entire subtle energy bodies that make up you. Focus up to the third eye, the sixth chakra, where the front vortex is situated between the eyebrows and the forehead. And the back is the manas that extends outward just below the occipital range of the skull. And this vibration is indigo blue. Open the third eye. Allow the indigo blue frequency that carries the pure energetic of the third eye. Allow it to move through the cells and through all your subtle energy. Up to the crown chakra that extends upward, matching the root chakra downward, and vibrates with a frequency primarily of purple and white Allow the chakra to open wide and flood all the systems that make up you. Flood them with light and love. Renew your focus and notice how this energy moves and enlivens the cells and washes through all the subtle energy bodies, healing what no longer serves and letting grow all that will create you ready for awakening. And now, as we slowly bring this meditation to a close, let your inward gaze just move from the crown down to the root, very simply and gently, allowing all the colors to be present, allowing yourself to be washed by the energy that's moving through you. Once you reach the root, move the toes back and forth and wiggle the fingers and bring the palms together in front of the chest, keeping the eyes closed. Bow before the beauty of you, the divinity of you. When you are ready, open your eyes with Namaste. Namaste, my friends. Great to be with you. See you tomorrow.